we can quickly remove the gutta-percha residue on the canal walls that was dissolved by endosolvent but not flushed out. This is a 2-1 root canal. During retreatment, there were some fibrous tissues in the pulp chamber and at the canal orifices. So the previous doctor thought this case seemed quite troublesome and potentially risky, and therefore referred it to me. Let's take a look at the video first. First of all, during the first consultation, it took us a relatively long time to remove the fiber cream, and then we roughly cleaned the inside of the root canal. After removing the fiber seal and roughly cleaning it, I made an appointment for a second consultation. Because there was still a lot of gutta-percha left on the side wall after the initial consultation, the purpose of showing you this picture first is to tell you that, in fact, my initial pulp opening was a bit incomplete, which was biased towards the mesial aspect of the pulp chamber roof in our mirror. The fit wasn't very good, so during this visit, I probably extended the access opening a bit further inward, giving myself more space to remove the gutta-percha from the apical area. If you've seen my previous videos, you know I really like using the crab claw tweezers to go inside and grab the gutta-percha from within the root canal. However, in this case, it just didn't work. No matter how many times I tried, I couldn't get it out. The gutta-percha was quite hard and adhered tightly to the canal wall, which was really frustrating and made me feel pretty down. I even started to suspect that I might have damaged my remover, since I just couldn't pull it out. At one point, I wondered if the tip of the remover couldn't grip anymore. I kept trying to pull it out, but in the end, there was nothing I could do. So we had to move on to the chlorhexidine removal, which means using a chemical solvent. Of course, in theory, if you can remove it all at once, you don't need a chemical solvent. But in situations like this, if you've spent 10 or 20 minutes and still can't get it out, then you just have to honestly use the chemical method. Please remember this detail. I've always told everyone in my offline classes that after applying the chemical solvent, you need to stir it vigorously for better results, even for us, after stirring it forcefully. Because the length of our manual endodontic files is limited. So there was still some residue left in the apical area. When I couldn't tolerate it anymore, I applied H-file again. And after using the H-file for cleaning, you can see a large amount of oily residue coming out. This is the part of the gutta-percha that was dissolved. During this process, we were still using 3% sodium hypochlorite for irrigation. Next, take a look. For such a large root canal, many of our commonly used files, like the standard 2504, 2506, are basically useless. For us, the starting point is 2506. Just now, under the microscope, we could clearly see that there was still some gutta-percha residue in the apical area. Now, regarding this kind of gutta-percha residue in the apical area, by using this series of sweeping, rinsing, and scrubbing techniques, the effect of brushing with the B-file is actually even better. Combined with repeated irrigation using sodium hypochlorite, once everything is clean, we can quickly seal the root canal. The remaining gutta-percha that was dissolved by our eucalyptol but not flushed out can be cleaned out, which helps us achieve a much cleaner root canal. You may have noticed during this process that when sealing the lingual side of anterior teeth, we always use a sealer. This is because on the lingual side, even if we invert the flap very precisely, there can still be leakage, especially when we need to use, for example, when using sodium hypochlorite. This is something everyone can learn from and refer to. In the end, we were able to thoroughly clean out the remaining gutta-percha in the root canal and then seal it with calcium hydroxide, after which we can proceed with the routine root canal filling. That concludes this session. See you next time.